The transition from the scroll to the codex is fascinating and offers useful insight into how our society adapts to new technology. Previous students from previous classes have created excellent work on this material, and I provide links at the end of this video. I do encourage you to explore them. What I'd like to do is I'd like to examine the basics of the transition and then delve into new research and new findings which can help us move that conversation forward. The movement from the scroll to the codex has been called one of the greatest changes in communication ever. The Egyptian scroll was composed of sheets glued together, rolled around two rods. The longest was around 131 feet. The average scroll was 30 feet long. Scrolls were usually read horizontally, rolling out with your right hand and re-rolling with your left hand as you read. When you reached the end, you had to re-roll the scroll for the next reader. A codex is the ancient form of what we think about as a book. No one is exactly sure how the codex came about. There were numerous precursors. Ancient wax tablets were bound together, and papyrus rolls were sometimes folded in an accordion-style book format. Two formats were popular for creating scrolls and codex: papyrus and parchment. The Egyptians created papyrus around 3100 BCE. They peeled papyrus reed, which grew by the Nile, and pounded it into layers. The layers then formed sheets which were dried and pressed into writing material. Romans created parchment paper by smoothing animal skin and flattening it with lead. Parchment paper was more durable and therefore more suitable for writing on both sides. The Egyptians used papyrus for both scrolls and codices. The Romans, due to availability, used parchment mainly for scrolls and codices. Because both sources of paper were used during the rise of the codex, paper source had little to do with the advancement of the codex. When we look at concrete comparisons through our current viewpoints, there are a lot of advantages to the codex, which made it preferable to the scroll. It was much easier to open to any part of a text easily. With the scroll, the rolling and re-rolling could be cumbersome. Both sides of a codex page were more protected. If a scroll had writing on the opposite side of a page, the constant rolling and re-rolling could wear away the contents over time. The codex accommodated a lot longer text. The scroll was limited by the difficulty of scrolling to locations. If you had a larger text, you would need multiple scrolls, whereas one codex could encompass the whole text. A codex, due to its self-contained structure, could easily be stacked, whereas scrolls would be crushed. Definitely, a codex was more portable and easier to store. However, the scroll has an interesting advantage of longevity. The codex, even including our current version, only has existed as a popular medium for roughly 2018 years. The scroll, on the other hand, enjoyed a major usage of 4,000 years. That the scroll lasted so long speaks to how it met the needs of its cultures. Abstract comparisons are open to interpretation and offer interesting questions. The codex seems less like orality, less like a verbal discourse. The scroll seems closer to orality. With the scroll, the constant rolling through the text is similar to the way we roll through our monologues when we speak. Historically, the scroll had been used as a reminder text in case a speaker forgot part of what they were saying. Its contents were more of a continuous stream of consciousness, not broken by headers and page numbers. Certainly, it felt more immersive than the codex. I would say that the scroll is a more memory-intensive device. What is read and then re-rolled away. Difficult to find again. In a codex, the ease of re-finding your past location made it seem less important to remember specifics of text. The adoption of the Codex moved writing farther away from morality. The Codex seemed a thing apart. As well, Codex could accommodate a lot longer text in one volume. This meant that now, in writing, there could be a beginning, a middle, and an end. Scholars had previously said that the adaptation of the Codex in history has been ambiguous and unclear. In 2017, Benjamin Harnett, in The Diffusion of the Codex, proposes a resolution. In 100 CE, Christians quickly adapted to the Codex. The Christians took to the newness of the new technology. You think of the Christians as early adapters. For them, being able to put the Bible in one compact form that was durable and reliable was very enticing. Adding to that, the Christian numbers were actually quite low when the Codex first was developed. It's no wonder that in a small, tight-knit group, that the message of this new technology spread quickly. Harnett supposes that they actually did follow a standard S-curve of technology diffusion, but it happened so quickly that there are no adequate historical documents to prove it. The S-curve of innovation adaptation is where the early adapters are the first ones to try new technology. After others see the early adapters using the innovation successfully, they slowly begin to start using the new technology as well. At some point, a critical mass is achieved, and the innovation becomes widespread, only slowing when it reaches a near complete adaptation rate. Harnett was able to show how the non-Christian literature writers adopted the Codex at a much slower rate, taking 500 years to supplant the scroll completely, but following an S-curve as well. This theory of innovation diffusion in society says the spread of advantageous technology is based on social connections, social influence, and fundamental human nature. The same S-curve of adaptation can be seen in fields such as marketing, organizational studies, and sociology. The slower communication technologies of Roman times would also explain the longer time for the S-curve to be completed. The superior durability of a codex and our modern book is not necessarily an advantage over a scroll. Scrolls can be crushed and torn, and second sides of pages can be wiped away through re-rolls. Scrolls are more fragile. The good thing about this is that the scrolls that are important will be copied, and the copier might make adjustments in copy that make the scrolls more contemporary. A codex, once written, can endure, unchanged. This can lead to a collection of outdated, irrelevant, and incorrect, timeless artifacts. We can see this even now in our libraries of outdated and useless books, as well as the unfathomable amount of information junk on the internet, both of which will likely never be read or disseminated in any meaningful way. Now, I'm not trying to say that I would prefer to use a scroll over a codex, but what I'm trying to do is get into a scroll-dominant mindset to understand where that resistance comes from. I think it's important to understand that there is a basic human nature where we resist new ways of doing things and change. And if we can accept that, we can see that Harnett's S-curve of technology diffusion makes a lot of sense and can help us to understand the very changes to education and literacy that are happening right now. Hey, thank you very much for watching this video. I really appreciate your time. I'm excited about the possibility of a future student seeing my video, learning from it, getting some information, getting some ideas, and then moving forward. If we're all going to be posting publicly, we should be learning from each other and not rehashing things, but making things develop and explore very exciting new frontiers across all of these historical domains. Also, I really welcome your comments. I'm interested to hear what you think about this technology of diffusion. It's not a brand new theory, but it's kind of a brand new application to the rise of the Codex. Do we see that now? Is it applicable? Is there an error in this? Is it too much of a one-way street of thinking? I'm not quite sure. I'd love to hear what you think. Have a great day.